and welcome to episode 4 of one of my 2017 journeys where I'm in Siem Reap in Cambodia. There are over 1,000 temples in this area, and in the previous episode I visited Angkor Wat, and in this episode I visit Angkor Thom, and then later Prohm, which was used as the location of the movie Tomb Raider starring Lara Croft as Angelina Jolie. Angkor Wat, Thom and Prohm are all within close proximity of each other and take about 5 hours to visit in all. Angkor Thom is surrounded by a moat that's even longer than the one at Angkor Wat. It's more than 3 kilometres by 3 kilometres. At the centre of it is the main temple and all the other main attractions, the parking area and the street food stalls. My journey starts at the south gate, which has been fully restored. Mythical statues line the causeway over the moat. The images represent a Hindu myth of creation called the churning of the seas of milk. On the left hand side of the road are 54 guardian deities called devas, and on the other side are 54 images of demon gods called asuras. After that quick photo stop, we head towards the Bayon Temple complex.
So Angkor means city and Thom is big.
Right.
So Angkor Thom, it means big city.
Is this for the monks also, or just anyone?
Just anyone. Just anyone.
Right.
And during the Khmer Empire, so the king lived in Angkor Thom. Right. Yeah. It was a capital. So Angkor Thom has 54 towers. Yeah. Wow. It dedicated to 54 states during the Khmer Empire.
Mm-hmm. It's a monkey.
Yep.
Bayon Temple is open from 7:30 AM through to 5:30 PM. It's not a big place, and so it's an easy walk, with most of the time spent avoiding tourists on the walking paths. The temple complex was built under the direction of the Mahayana Buddhist ruler Jayavarman VII, who ascended to the Khmer kingdom's throne at Angkor in 1181 AD. He erected the site for Buddhist worship, although it later was renovated and used as a Hindu temple. Various forms of Hindu and Buddhist worship were practiced side by side and successively in the ancient royal courts of Southeast Asia. The faces depicted on the Bayon towers clearly resemble faces on known portrait statues of Jayavarman VII. Given his Buddhist leanings, it's thought that the huge faces portray him in semi-divine form as a bodhisattva, an enlightened being conceived in Mahayana Buddhism who postpones entering nirvana in order to remain on earth helping others towards salvation. Bodhisattvas are somewhat like Mahayana Buddhist saints. Oh, stinks in here. Smells like urine. And now a quick word about Angkor Thom. Angkor Thom was built from the early 1100s to the late 1200s AD, during the reigns from Suryavarman I through to Jayavarman VII. It became abandoned sometime prior to 1609 and is believed to have sustained a population of between 80 to 150,000 people. Every stone tells a story here, but a storyteller I am not. However, many of them do require maintenance, and a lot of countries have contributed to their restoration. The latest restoration project was started in July 2017 by the Japanese government and is expected to finish in about 2020. After visiting the Bayon Temple, I walk across the road to the Buffoon Temple. Next stop, next temple. The Baphuon Temple is down a long path and it was dedicated to the Hindu god Shiva. It measures 120 metres by 100 metres at its base and is 50 metres tall. Fortunately, you can't climb the tower as it's still under restoration, so you only need to climb 34 metres. In the late 15th century, the Baphuon Temple was converted to a Buddhist temple. It was built on land filled with sand, and due to its immense size, the site was unstable throughout its history. By the 1900s, much of the temple had largely collapsed and restoration efforts have been interrupted by war and politics. However, in April 2011, after 51 years, archaeologists finished the restoration of the temple and now it's open to the public. Moving further along, you come across the Terrace of the Elephants. It's a 350 metre long area used as a giant reviewing stand for public ceremonies and served as a base for the King's Grand Audience Hall. The middle section of it is decorated with life-size Garuda and lions. And then it was time for lunch. I said to the driver that I wanted to eat at the same place and the same food as all the other drivers. So I had rice from the nearby fields and fish from the nearby river. The lunch at $1.50 was unprocessed, so a lot more healthy than what you'd buy at the local supermarket. Next, a quick toilet stop. Entry is free if you have the one-day pass, and then on to Prohm. Prohm is a temple of towers, closed courtyards and narrow corridors. Many of the corridors are impassable, clogged with jumbled piles of delicately carved stone blocks, dislodged by the roots of long decayed trees. Bas-reliefs on bulging walls are carpeted with lichen, moss and creeping plants, and shrubs sprout from the roofs of monumental porches. Trees, hundreds of years old, tower overhead, their leaves filtering the sunlight and casting a greenish tinge over the whole scene. Built from 1186 AD and occupying an area of 1 kilometre by 1 kilometre, it was originally known as Raja Vihara, or Monastery of the King. Prohm was a Buddhist temple dedicated to the mother of Jayavarman VII and is one of the few temples in the Angkor region where an inscription provides information about the temple's dependents and inhabitants. Almost 80,000 people are required to maintain or tend at the temple, among them more than 2,700 officials and 615 dancers. One of the most famous spots in Prohm is the so-called Tomb Raider tree, where Angelina Jolie's Lara Croft picked a jasmine flower before falling through the earth into Pinewood Studios. It used to be possible to climb onto the damaged galleries, but now it's prohibited to protect both the temple and the visitor. Phrom is currently under a stabilisation and restoration program by an Indian team of archaeologists working with their Cambodian counterparts. If you're a templeaholic or a Lara Croftaholic, then 2 hours is required to visit a place like this, but for me, 1 hour was sufficient. Children at this time should be in school, and I was advised not to encourage the practice of parents making a few extra dollars at the expense of their children.
Where are you from? You buy free magnet for $1. You buy 1 for 1. Where are you from? Where are you from?
I hope you enjoyed following me around at Angkor Thom and Phrom, and in my next episode I visit a floating village, which I found even more interesting.